I died on my 14th birthday. For 6 minutes and 13 seconds, to be exact. Long enough to see what comes next, but not long enough to stay there. Sometimes I still dream about it. Not in the scary way you'd expect, but in a way that makes me feel warm inside, like drinking hot chocolate on a snowy day. But I should probably back up a bit. My name is Emma, and I've always been what my mom calls an old soul. While other kids my age were obsessing over TikTok dances and the latest Netflix shows, I was volunteering at Seattle Children's Hospital. I know, weird, right? But here's the thing. My dad's a pediatrician there, and ever since I was little, I wanted to be just like him. So when I turned 13, I convinced him to let me volunteer in the children's ward. Mostly I just read stories to the younger kids or helped organize the playroom, but it felt important, you know? That morning started like any other Saturday. I woke up early, excited because it was my birthday, but even more excited because Dad had finally pulled some strings to let me shadow him during his rounds. It was supposed to be my best birthday ever. I remember every detail of that morning so clearly now. The way the February rain tapped against my bedroom window as I got dressed. The smell of Mom's famous birthday pancakes with extra chocolate chips. Even the stupid argument with my little brother Kevin about who got the last piece of bacon. Normal stuff. The kind of moments you never think will be your last. The hospital was quieter than usual that morning. Dad jokes that hospitals are like cats. They're most peaceful right before chaos hits. He had no idea how right he would be. Everything changed during our third patient visit. We were checking on Tommy, a 7-year-old recovering from appendix surgery. I was standing by his bed, making him laugh by telling him awful knock-knock jokes, when it hit me. The headache came first. Not the normal kind, but the type that feels like someone set off fireworks inside your skull. Then the dizziness. I remember reaching for the bed rail to steady myself, but my hand went right through it. Or maybe through isn't the right word. It was more like I wasn't there anymore. The last thing I heard was Tommy screaming, "Dr. Chen," and my dad's footsteps running toward me. Then everything went black. Later, they told me I had something called an arteriovenous malformation. Basically, a tangle of blood vessels in my brain that no one knew about until it ruptured. A ticking time bomb I'd been carrying around since birth. The doctors said I was incredibly lucky. They had no idea how right they were, but for completely different reasons. Because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about, well, everything. The darkness didn't last long. Suddenly, I was floating near the ceiling of Tommy's room, watching a scene that felt like something from one of those medical dramas my mom loves. Except this wasn't TV. This was real. And the patient everyone was frantically working on was me. My dad, who I'd never seen lose his cool in 15 years of life, was shaking as he performed CPR on my lifeless body. Nurses I'd known since I was a kid were rushing around, their faces twisted with worry. And Tommy, brave little Tommy, was sitting up in his bed, tears streaming down his face as he clutched his stuffed dinosaur. I wanted to tell them I was okay, that the pain was gone, that I felt lighter and more peaceful than I ever had before. But I couldn't. I was just watching. Then I felt it. A gentle tugging, like when you're floating in a pool and someone calls you to get out. Except this pull was upward, toward a light that hadn't been there before. As I moved toward it, the hospital room began to fade away. What I saw next was so incredible that I'm still trying to find the right words to describe it. But I have to try. Because what I learned in those 6 minutes and 13 seconds isn't just my story anymore. It's a message I was meant to share. The light wasn't just bright, it was alive. Imagine diving into a pool of liquid sunlight that somehow feels like the biggest hug you've ever gotten. As I moved through it, I began to understand things that had always confused me. It was like my brain suddenly had unlimited Wi-Fi access to all the answers in the universe. And then I saw her, my grandmother. Not the way she looked in the photos from when she was sick, but young and vibrant, the way Mom always described her in stories. She was radiant, literally glowing with a light that seemed to come from inside her. "Emma," she said, but her lips didn't move. The words just appeared in my mind, clear as day. "There's so much you need to see." What happened next was like watching the world's most incredible virtual reality movie. Except it was all real. My grandmother showed me through different parts of what she called the in-between place, a realm where souls go right after they leave their bodies. I saw rooms filled with people learning from beings of pure light. They were reviewing their lives, not like a test, but like watching a movie of every choice they'd ever made and seeing how it affected others. Every kind word, every mean comment, every time they helped someone or hurt someone, they saw it all, felt it all. But here's the wild part. It wasn't about punishment. It was about understanding, growing, learning how to love better. In another area, souls were healing. Some had carried heavy burdens from their lives: guilt, anger, fear, addiction. Beings of pure love, angels maybe. They never said what they were, worked with these souls, helping them let go of their pain. "This is why forgiveness is so important," my grandmother explained. "Every time someone forgives, it creates ripples of healing that reach far beyond Earth." She showed me how every kind action creates waves of light that spread through all of existence. Even tiny things. Like when I shared my lunch with Sarah Jenkins in 3rd grade because she forgot hers. Or when Tommy's big sister read him stories while he was scared before his surgery. These small acts of kindness had effects that went on, touching lives in ways we could never imagine from Earth. But the most amazing part? I saw how souls who had passed away were still helping people on Earth. My grandmother showed me how she'd been watching over our family, standing beside Mom during her hardest days at work, helping Kevin find his lost science project. It was under his bed the whole time, even guiding Dad's hands during difficult surgeries. "We're all connected," she said. "Love doesn't end with death. It just changes form." Then she showed me something that made me gasp. I saw potential futures, hundreds of them, all branching out like a giant tree. Some were beautiful beyond imagination, others, not so much. "The choices people make right now are more important than ever," she explained. "Humanity is at a turning point. That's why you have to go back." "But I don't want to," I said, surprised by how clear my thoughts were. "It's so beautiful here." My grandmother smiled. "You have work to do, Emma. Important work." She showed me more, so much more. How prayers look like streams of light, how souls communicate without words, how time doesn't exist the way we think it does. But most importantly, she showed me why every single person matters more than they could ever imagine. Just as I was beginning to understand the biggest mysteries of existence, I felt that tugging sensation again. But this time, it was pulling me back. "Wait!" I called out. "I have so many questions." "You'll remember what you need to." My grandmother's voice echoed as everything began to fade. "Just remember the most important thing. Love is the answer. Always." The next thing I knew, I was gasping for air on the hospital floor, my dad's tears falling on my face as he hugged me tight. Tommy was still clutching his dinosaur, but now he was smiling through his tears. That was 2 months ago. The doctors called it a miracle. They said most people don't survive what happened to me, and those who do usually have serious brain damage. But I was perfectly fine. Better than fine, actually. Since then, everything's different. Not in a bad way, just different. Colors seem brighter, music sounds deeper, and people, I see them differently now. Not just their bodies, but their light, their potential, their struggles, their beauty. I still volunteer at the hospital, but now I do more than just read stories. Sometimes, when a patient is really scared or in pain, I can sense their guardian angels around them. I can't see them as clearly as I did in the other realm, but I know they're there. And sometimes, if I'm very quiet, I can hear them whispering words of comfort. The hardest part isn't remembering what happened. It's trying to explain it to others. How do you describe colors to someone who's never seen them? How do you explain music to someone who's never heard it? But I try, because that's part of why I was sent back. So here's what I know for sure. Death isn't the end. It's not even close to the end. It's more like graduating from one grade to the next in the biggest school ever. Everyone you've lost is still around, learning and growing and helping in ways we can't imagine. And love? It's not just a feeling. It's the force that holds the whole universe together. I know this sounds crazy. If someone had told me this story 2 months ago, I probably would have rolled my eyes and gone back to my phone. But here's the thing. You don't have to believe me. Just try something for me. Next time you have a choice between being right and being kind, choose kindness. Next time you want to ignore someone who's hurting, reach out instead. Next time you think your life doesn't matter, remember that every single thing you do creates ripples that affect the entire universe. Because that's the biggest thing I learned in those 6 minutes and 13 seconds. We're all connected. Every single one of us. And love isn't just something we feel, it's something we do. It's the choices we make, the words we speak, the way we treat each other. Sometimes at night, when everything's quiet, I can still feel that other realm. Not in a scary way, but in a way that reminds me why we're here. We're here to learn how to love better. That's it. That's the whole point. And when I think about that, even on my hardest days, I remember what my grandmother showed me, that every act of kindness, no matter how small, lights up the universe like a star. So maybe the next time you see a kid reading stories to sick children in a hospital, or sharing their lunch with someone who forgot theirs, or just being kind when they could choose not to be, remember this. They might know something you don't. They might have seen what I've seen. Or maybe they just know the truth that took me dying to learn. That love is the answer. Always.